What's up, everybody? This is Class 6, the review. This class will be a short one. There's not much information to cover. And at this point, we're just basically going to summarize all of the information we learned up to this point. So as you can see on today's overview, our only point for today is let's tie it all together. Now let's get started. In our first class, we covered copyrights, which is essentially the basis of the entire music business. As you can see right here under the basic facts, it says, as an artist, songwriter, producer, essentially any kind of music creator, we generate money from the exploitation of our copyrights. Point number 2, your songs, merchandise, and all creative ideas are copyrightable. Now, in particular, your merchandise, like a t-shirt in and of itself, isn't copyrightable. But the design, the logo, the font, and the print, so long as it's your idea originally, then yes, that's copyrightable. And then point number 3, you can register your copyrights with the Library of Congress. Now, why register it? So remember, you own your copyright to your work as soon as it is fixed into a tangible format using a tangible medium. Or in other words, as soon as your music is written down in a notebook, whether it be lyrics or notated sheet music, or recorded using your phone or DAW, you own the copyright to it. You don't need to register it with the Library of Congress. However, there are several legal benefits of you doing so. 1, you get public record of copyright claim or proof of ownership. For example, if your music is registered with the Library of Congress, anybody will be able to go to copyright.gov and look up the authenticity of your claim. They'll be able to search the copyright records of our government and find it. This is important as it helps us to authenticate our claim or our ownership to our work. Which brings us to another benefit. You get protection in the case of copyright infringement or legal proof of ownership. And lastly, you will have the ability to file for an infringement lawsuit. So in the event that anybody were to use your work without your permission, you would now have the grounds to take legal action against them and maybe even be compensated. Now, we also discussed trademarks in our first class. Trademarks are not the same as copyrights. Nonetheless, they are a form of intellectual property as well, and we typically use them for commerce. So let's read these 2 points. Trademarks protect the integrity and rights of a brand or branded product when being used commercially, such as your musical alias, your logo, the name of your record label or business, the name of your albums, and any other goods that you produce, such as your merchandise. In other words, we can say that trademarks help us to declare the authenticity of our brand. Let's say you and another artist had the same name, but there was a slight difference in the spelling. You would want to trademark your name. By doing so, you would make a distinction between you and the other artist. Let's move along. In class number 2, we discussed the difference between a master and a composition. A master recording is known as the official sound recording of a song, the version from which all other copies derive, or it can be the new copy of a song, a remix, cover, live version, clean edit, etc. We can even say the master recording is the version of the song that is mixed and mastered and ready for distribution, whereas the composition is the instrumentation, the melodic, harmonic, and rhythmic elements of a song. 2, the lyrics, the lyrical content of a song or the idea of the song. The composition is the underlying idea of a master recording. The composition and the master recording generate 2 different sets of royalties. The master recording generates master royalties, while the composition generates publishing royalties. Let's move forward. In classes numbers 3 and 4, we discussed the recording artists and then songwriters. A recording artist creates master recordings and are paid from the distribution and monetization of master recordings. The songwriter creates the composition of the song, and they are paid when a composition is used in a creative work. So continuing with the idea from the last slide, a master recording is exclusive to the composition. The composition is inexclusive to the master recording. Now let's move forward. We're going to talk about royalties. Now, throughout the book, we discuss royalties, how they're earned as well as how they're computed. And in class 5, we talked about licensing, which is essentially the most common practice of exploiting our copyrights or using our music to make money. We discussed the different kinds of licenses, as well as the various organizations that will license out our work. And for the sake of clarity, I just want to cover that again, as well as discuss the corresponding royalty for each license. Now let's start out with our master royalties. We generate a master royalty when a license is issued for our master recording. So for number one, here we have the standard mastered royalty. Now that's not necessarily a real technical term, it's just something I'm using here and something that I like to say. But the standard master royalty is generated from the sale of our music on retail platforms such as iTunes, Amazon Music, etc., as well as DSPs such as Spotify, Apple Music, and Tidal, so on and so forth. Now, the only way to collect your money from distributing your master recording on DSPs as well as digital retailers is to be signed up with a digital distributor, such as a TuneCore, CD Baby, DistroKid, or any of the other platforms that provide a similar service. Another royalty that's generated from the master recording is the digital performance royalty. The digital performance royalty is only generated when a song is played on a non-interactive streaming platform, such as the free version of Pandora, iHeartRadio, or any streaming platform that runs like traditional radio. In the United States, the only way to collect this royalty is to be signed up with SoundExchange. Now, for more information on the digital performance royalty or streaming royalties in general, you can look between pages 26 and 31 of the book. Now, one more royalty that would be generated is the neighboring rights royalty. Neighbor royalties are generated outside of the U.S. This can apply to master royalties or publishing royalties. Now, as it relates to master royalties, they're pretty much the same thing as the digital performance royalty. When your music is streamed or broadcasted on non-interactive digital services or satellite radio and internet radio outside of the U.S., it'll generate the neighboring rights royalty. This can only be collected by SoundExchange. Moving on to our publishing royalties. First, you have the public performance royalty. This royalty is generated when your composition is used or played in a public setting. You must be signed up with the pro or a performance rights organization in order to collect that royalty. Next, you have your synchronization royalties. This royalty is generated when your composition is synced to a movie or any form of motion picture, such as a video game or commercial. Now, technically speaking, you can issue a synchronization license without the use of any other organization. But in most instances, it's a little bit more effective if you just go through a music library. Moving on, we have our third royalty for publishing, the mechanical royalty. This royalty is generated every time your composition is reproduced. Now, that reproduction could be when the song is streamed for more than 30 seconds, when the song is digitally downloaded, when another artist wants to reproduce or re-record your music and create a cover, or if it's physically printed into a CD, vinyl, cassette, or any other tangible format. In order to collect this royalty, you will need to be registered with an MRO or song trust. Now, song trust is essentially, next we have print royalties. Print royalties are generated whenever your composition is used in a songbook or even a single piece of sheet music. Somebody would have to be interested in using your music in a songbook. They would then reach out to you or your publisher. You'd then receive a royalty of about 10 to 12% of the sale of the book at its retail price. And moving on to our last royalty for publishing, we have the neighboring rights royalty. In order to collect the neighboring rights royalty for your composition, you will need to be signed up with the pro, an MRO, and a CMO. Moving on to our last slide for this class, we have collaborations. Point 1. Every person involved in the creation of a record should be paid in proportion to their contributions. And point number 2. Each collaborator should be registered with the appropriate organizations in order to collect their share of royalties. Now, I have a document for y'all that can make splits easy. If you go to the introduction, which is page 1 of the book, then look at the bottom of the page, you'll see that little tab that says to access your resources, click here. If you click on that tab, it'll bring you to Google Drive. From there, you can access the document that says splits sheets. It's a simple document that allows you to keep track of everybody's contribution to the record, down to the instrument they've played, as well as what percentage of royalties corresponds to their contributions. You can print out as many copies of that as you need. But that is all for today's class. So that was a lot of information, but we just had to revisit everything just to make sure that we're up to speed moving forward. Now, this class is the halfway mark of the video course. Moving forward, we'll be talking a little bit more of how to apply the information that we have written in the book, as well as the information that we discussed in the video course up to this point. We'll also be introducing some new concepts and talking about direct to consumer, how to start a record label, so on and so forth. So all of that is coming up next. But before you move on, you should at least have a decent understanding of all the information that we covered up till now. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. If you have any contributions, leave that in the comment section as well. This is a community. We're here to help each other learn and to help each other grow. For now, thank you, and I will see you in the next class.